Well, I want to welcome you to this special edition of Real Life, and we've got a great program for you right now, and it's something that I would hope that you'd get online right now and invite people to tune in, because what we're going to be talking about, I can promise you this, it is not being discussed anywhere else in the world right now, because we have with us Jay Smith from London, England, and Jay, God is using Jay in a very, very powerful way to reach the Muslim community in a way that, quite frankly, none of us are equipped to do. Jay knows Islam better than most Muslims, and he's been engaging Islam and their doctrine and Muslims not only around the world, but specifically in England, where he makes his ministry base. And he's been doing it in a way that is quite awesome. And Jay, it's awesome to have you with us. We love you. And
thanks, Jack.
We are going to be pretty, I would say, radical today regarding our program, because I have got emails that have been sent to us, and I'm going to read them verbatim. And I want everybody to know that this is not rehearsed. This is raw. Jay's not seen these. In fact, I have to be honest with you, I've only seen a few of these. And so as we get into this, we put out there an email address that if you had questions on Islam, to send us your question. And so we're going to be going through these as really extensive as possible, but we also want to be sensitive to how many we do have. And so, you know, we just pray that the Lord would honor our time together. So, Jay, listen, this one, Islam's agenda is the subject matter. It says, we recently witnessed on the news, oh yes, the brutal murder of the British soldier in broad daylight. We saw the Muslim Nigerian perpetrators stand with bloody hands and knives explaining their actions to bystanders. I actually watched your YouTube on this, Jay. What was the reason they gave for doing it? What is your analysis of the killing? Is there justification from the Quran for these actions?
Absolutely. Well, in fact, let me just do this real quickly. I'll try to do it in 3 minutes. You have Michael Adibalajo. That's the Nigerian. Now, who was he before he did his act there?
I think he was a Christian
He
before.
was a Nigerian Christian, Pentecostal, grew up in Romford, there in northern London. His parents saw that he was starting to move away from this faith, so they moved up to northern England. He then came back to London to go to Greenwich University. While he was in Greenwich University, in 2003, he was converted to Islam by Sheikh Omar Bakri Muhammad, a friend of mine, a very radical Muslim. And from 2003 to 2013, that 10-year period, Sheikh Omar Bakri Muhammad, along with Anjum Chowdhury, who is now the leader of the Muhajirun Party, which is the party that converted him, they then made him into a Muslim. And what they did is they taught him this book. And they gave him verse after verse after verse of this book. So that in 2013, a few months ago, he then goes to the street there in Woolwich, and he pinpoints a soldier, kills the soldier, but look what he does. He cuts the head.
It's very strategic.
Why did he cut the head? Surah 47, Ayah 4. Cut off the heads of the unbeliever, drags the body into the road, and then doesn't run away.
Stands
he
there.
doesn't attack anybody else. He then goes over to the people who are watching this, and he says, film me.
Yeah, he did.
And he was not excited. He wasn't nervous.
No.
He just spoke like you and I are speaking right here. And he starts quoting reference after reference.
He even apologizes to those who had a
I'm sorry you had to see this.
Who had to see this. I'm sorry.
That's right. And then he says, but why have you killed my soldiers?
Right.
What do you mean, my soldiers in Afghanistan, in Iraq?
Interesting.
Here's a man with a London accent from Romford talking about my soldiers, my men. He's talking about, basically, he's referring to Surah 5, Ayah 31, and verse 32. And it's very clear there. O children of Israel, which is interesting. The first part is he should have read, if you take the blood of one of us, you have taken the blood of all of us. So if you've taken the blood of one of us in Iraq or Afghanistan, you have taken the blood of all Muslims. Then the second part of that verse says, but he who protects, who saves the blood of one, saves the blood of all Muslims. So he was quoting that to the camera.
Right.
And then he quoted, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Now, most people seeing that think that he was quoting the Bible. He wasn't. He was quoting Surah 5, Ayah 45, which says an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, a nose for a nose, an ear for an ear. For those who take retribution, great is their own retribution. He's quoting the Quran. And then he didn't run away. He waited around for 16 minutes, waiting for the police to come. Why?
Right.
So he could rush the police and become a shaheed. He was hoping they would shoot him down. They didn't. They just wounded him. Why did he want to be a shaheed? Because of Surah 47. Ayah 4 to 6. Now here's the beautiful thing. While that was all happening, a bus stops, and out comes a woman from inside the bus.
Yes, the mother.
Mrs. Bennett is her name.
Mrs. Bennett.
And she sees a body on the ground. She doesn't even think first. She just goes right to the body
That's right.
to see if that body needs help. She thought it was an accident.
Right.
And then she saw that the head had been severed. And she looked up and she saw the men with the blood still dripping off the knives. Now, she could have gone back to the bus. She could have gone back to the crowd like you and I would have probably done. But she went right to that man and said, give me your knives.
She did.
Give me your knives. He says, no, I'm not going to give them to you. She said, why are you doing this? She says, we're going to cause a war. She says, you're going to lose. Now, the next day in the Daily Telegraph, they interviewed her. And they said, why in the world did you do that? Why didn't you just go back? Why did you go forward and ask for their knives? You know what her answer was? I'm a Christian.
Yes, she did say that.
I am a Christian. And Jesus says that we are not to use knives.
She said that.
She's quoting Matthew 26, verse 52.
That's right.
So here's two different scenarios. Here's a man that had been a Muslim, had been a Christian, had been turned from Christianity to become a Muslim. In 10 years, he was now quoting scripture to kill.
Right.
And to save the blood of a Muslim over there by killing a man here.
Right.
And then here's a Christian.
Yep.
Gets out of the bus without even thinking.
And she said she wasn't even scared. They asked her, were you fearful? She said, no, didn't think about that.
But she was quoting Jesus Christ.
She did.
Oh. What a comparison between what the Bible says. Lay down your sword, for he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Versus what the Quran says.
Yep.
Slay the unbeliever. Cut off the heads of the unbeliever. Just look at these two books and look at those two people as they reflected their revelations.
Representing their Lord. Jay, I want to ask you this. We all assume, and maybe we assume correctly here in the West, that as a man, I should not walk up to a Muslim woman and ask her anything at all. Is that true?
Rule of thumb, that is true, but not in the West. The reason being that most Muslims now have, especially if they're here second generation and third generation, they're going to school. They're sitting next to boys.
This is true.
They have been westernized. So Western Muslims, you have all the right to speak to them, man to a woman. In the homes, you don't do it. And that's why in the homes is a different matter because you're going into private territory. But in the public sphere, yes, you have all the right to speak to a woman. If she has a hijab or if she is a radical Muslim, if she is a hijab or a chador or burqa or any one of the bilqa, shilbab, all the other names they give to it, then be careful, she's probably a radical Muslim and she probably will herself say no. But that's not for you to compromise your position. And that's why we as Christians need to be very clear that we have no problem talking to women.
Interesting what you just said, because I've been asked this question because the person asking me the question was fearful that it wasn't that they're shy to share with her or not willing to share with her. They didn't want to share with her and get her in trouble, get her beat, get her whatever they might.
Oh, she won't be getting in trouble.
She won't be in trouble.
She will tell you if she's not permitted to speak to you. She would just or look away or not even respond to you.
So you're saying just walk up and ask anyway and let them shut it down.
Let them shut it down because you're being true to what the gospel says about men and women.
So
and
that's awesome.
You are permitted to speak to women. So don't let them rule our lives.
And you're exactly right, because we're starting to be so concerned about their cultural sensitivities when in reality they're here in the West. On top of the fact what trumps it all is preach this gospel to everybody.
See, by just saying that, you're preaching the gospel.
True.
Because you're defining to them what we mean by sexes, between the sexes. We do this all the time in London. They have debates. I do debates, and I debate Muslims all the time.
Yes, you do.
And whenever we plan a debate, the Muslims come to us, say the women must be on this side, the men must be on this side, the women must be behind. They may not speak any questions. We say absolutely not. The women can sit anywhere they want. In fact, if you want to keep your women separate, you have the right to do that. But do not tell us where to put our women. Our women can sit next to us because we do not see them as sexual objects.
Excellent. And what do they do?
And if you live in London, then you better go by our rules.
I love it.
And what we're doing, though it is provocative and it is almost confrontational, I'm preaching the gospel by saying that.
Yes, you are.
Because then I'll say, why is it that we don't see them as sexual objects?
Isn't that great?
We don't cover them up because they're going to seduce us. Because if they're going to seduce us, who's got the problem here?
Yeah.
The woman or us?
It's the man.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Then cut out your eye. Pluck out your eyes, Christ says.
That's right. That's awesome. Subject, Islam's agenda. What would be Islam's motive for trying to get Christians to believe that the Quranic Jesus is the same as the biblical Jesus? What's their motive for getting us to believe that?
The reason
do they want us to believe?
They want us to share the same God, the same Jesus, the same prophetic line. They want us because they believe that we do share the same God. They just believe that we have corrupted that God with this book here. They want us to believe that we share the same Jesus. They just believe that we've corrupted Jesus with this book here. And that's why their agenda is, in order to share the same God, You have to come to our terms. Now, let me just back you up to a number of years ago. There was a document called the Common Word. Have you heard of this?
Of course.
The Common Word was sent out by 138 Muslim scholars to Christian scholars and leaders with the understanding that we agree that we share the same God and the same love of man. And the document started with their own definition of who God is, and it was taken from Surah 3, Ayah 65, which stipulates that there's an open word between you and us. So they're quoting from the verse itself, that God is one and he has no partners. Now, do you believe that Jesus is the partner of God?
I believe that Jesus is God.
He has no partners, exactly.
Yeah.
So by virtue of us signing that document, we would have to go with their definition of Jesus, that he is a partner of God, that we believe he's a partner of God. And that's why we will not sign it. But you can see then why they want to impose their view of Jesus, their view of God, and that view must be monotheistic, that has no partners, that this person, this God, does not eat. That's in Surah 5, Ayah 75, that he has no wife. That's in Surah 6, Ayah 101. So you can see they start imposing their view of what our God is, and I won't let them do that.
But see, you won't let them do that because you are taught, educated, you know what the scripture says, and you know what their agenda is. And one of the reasons, I love Jay Smith, but one of the reasons why you're here is because we have got to get the Christian community understanding what it is they believe about who Jesus Christ is.
Jack,
That
this is
key.
why your church is so influential. This is why your church is so pivotal. If Islam, it will be the largest religion in 7 years. In 7 years, it will surpass Christianity, both Catholics and Protestants put together.
Right.
That's 7 years we have. If in 7 years they're going to be the largest religion, which not only means that they have a theological agenda, they have a political agenda, they have a social agenda.
Absolutely.
You've seen all the different agendas. Islam includes all of that in what it means to be a Muslim. If that is the case, then what do you think for the church, what is going to be our greatest foe in the future?
That's right.
Why is it we're not teaching people this then?
Exactly.
Why is it there's not one school in the world that teaches Islamic polemics?
Exactly.
How many people even know what that word means?
Right.
And why is it there's only about 2 or 3 schools that even have on their agenda or even have as a curriculum? One of them is Biola University, not too far from
That's
you,
right.
Islamic apologetics,
Right.
taught by Josh Lingell,
That's right.
my good friend.
Yeah.
Most of it's my material.
That's right.
Why is that we're not teaching this everywhere? If this is going to be the largest religion, if it's going to be the strongest opposition for the church for the next generation,
guaranteed.
then why aren't we teaching what the Quran is saying?
So listen, let me ask you on camera, why? Let's just pick on the Christian universities in America. Why are they not teaching this? Why are they not
You've already answered it in a few
hosting
questions
classes?
before.
Yeah,
There is a fear.
that's right.
There is a fear that this Islam that we're talking about is not true Islam, that we're creating this Islam, and it only represents
Right.
a small
Right.
radical agenda over here on the right.
Right.
That it doesn't represent real Islam. The question I would ask anybody that says that is, prove it. Show me in the Quran that we're wrong.
That's right.
Show me in the Prophet's life that he was a benevolent man,
you
that
see
he
the
was anything
opposite.
like Jesus.
Oh no, there's no way.
Show me also in the Prophet, but look, show me in Islam itself, the history of Islam,
Yes.
how it began.
There you go.
Show me in the last 1400 years where Islam has been anything but violent.
Well, you look at, and you know the terms and the words and the names of these places correctly. But if I remember right, was it a Quraysh tribe
Quraysh, yeah.
where Muhammad supposedly involved himself in the beheading
Oh,
of
okay.
many?
You're talking about the Qurayzi. The Qurayzi.
Okay.
They're the Banu Qurayzi. They're Jewish.
Yes.
The Jews in Medina.
He involved himself in that very slaughter.
Well, he was the one that dictated it. He was the one that called for it. And he used
And if
a
I'm a-
Jew that told him this is what you to do. And then he took all 800
Yes,
men and
that's
slit
it.
their
That's
throats in
it.
one afternoon.
If I'm a faithful Muslim, aren't I to focus on living my life in the pattern of Muhammad?
Exactly.
If I'm a faithful Christian, I'm to live my life in the pattern of Jesus.
You've just given the answer.
Okay.
You go to Muhammad, and if you want to live your life, and every Muslim must do what Muhammad did, because he is the paradigm. He is the model on earth for what God has intended all humans to be in every place, in all ages, in all times. And if he's the model, and that's how he treated the Jews who stood against him. Remember, what was their crime? What did the Banu Kainuka, the Banu Nadir, the Banu Qurayza, those three families, what did they do against Muhammad? What was their only crime? They refused to accept him as a prophet. Well, I refuse to accept him as a prophet too, which means I am just as guilty as those Jews.
That's right.
And if this is how he reacted to those Jews in 627, after only moving to Medina 5 years earlier, he'd only been in Medina 5 years, they were locals. They were the indigenous people of Medina.
Right.
If that's what he did to the Jews, and if he is the model for all Muslims,
That's right.
then why should we be surprised that Muslims are acting the way they're acting?
Jay, what would you say to the Christian right now that's watching this, and they just heard what you just said?
Yeah.
They're still trying to get over the 7 years. In 7 years, Islam will outnumber Christianity. They just heard what you said about what's really coming if people are going to be faithful to Muhammad. And the Christian is tempted right now to turn the channel or to log off and not hear this. What would you say to them? What would you say to them right now?
Jack, this is what I would say. Islam, by definition, follows a text which creates an ideology, and it's that ideology that you're seeing now being enacted all over the world, including the one we just talked about with Michael Adibalajo there in London at Woolwich. If the ideology is based on a text, then where is it we're going to have to direct our energies towards? The text.
The text.
Who's doing that? Can the government do that?
No.
No. They don't even understand
They don't even know.
They don't even understand the power of this text. They don't even know that Muslims go to a text.
Yeah.
Can the police or the military do that?
There's no way.
No. Bombs, bullets, and cruise missiles do not destroy a text.
No.
You don't destroy an ideology with bombs, bullets, and cruise missiles. How do you destroy an ideology?
You expose it. You
With a better
expose it
ideology.
to the truth.
With a bigger bet.
That's
a better.
right.
This ideology. This is the only thing that can destroy that. Now, who are the ones, therefore, that's basically, who are the ones only that can do this?
That's right.
We're looking at
That's
it.
right.
We're the only people, the only ones that can take on Islam, because we're the only ones that understand the power of this book.
That's right.
We understand how it's motivating young men, women, and children all over the world. We can see what's going to happen
That's
when
right.
they become the largest.
Well, I've got to go against the producers right now of this program and just tell you guys right now as we continue on with this. This is the reason why you need to support what Jay Smith is doing. As a church, we support him. You need to do the same thing. This is an unscheduled commercial, but it's much needed, because if we're going to lose you for whatever reasons in the next few moments, you got to get behind what this man's doing. Listen, I've been telling the church here at Chino Hills that they're going to be hearing on a Sunday morning Jay Smith, and that I boldly told them that they will be hearing from a man, and there will be a service here at church that will be unlike any teacher and any service anywhere in the world on a Sunday. And that's true because of what Jay knows and what he's sharing and the passion of it. We are greatly thankful for. What cultural sensitivities are most important to be aware of when witnessing to a Muslim with a Middle Eastern background?
Okay, with a Middle Eastern, it's a little bit different than, say, with an Asian. You'd have to make a distinction there because
Asian meaning Indonesian?
Asian, no, sorry, Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladesh.
Oh, okay.
That's what we call. I'm sorry, this is an English and idiomatic
Help
expression.
me out. I'm from.
No, I have to be careful because that's how we do it in England.
Well, yeah, but you guys are correct, and we haven't.
No, that's what we do it in England. Actually, you are more correct because an Asian here would be an Indonesian. Probably the best word to use is Indian subcontinent.
Okay.
And see, they're the largest block of Muslims in the world.
Yes, that's right.
That's 500 million right there. There's no other place in the world that has that many Muslims in one place.
Yeah.
And at one time, they were one country.
Yeah.
It was only in 1947 they were split up into 3 countries. Now you can pretty much, you don't have the problem. There's not near as much problem except the Pakistanis. The Pakistanis tend to be a lot more radical.
Yes.
They would be much closer to what we would have in the Middle East. The Middle Easterners have an awful lot of cultural proclivities that are based on Quran about gender specification and gender rules.
Yes.
So you have to be more careful when you're working with a Middle Eastern. But I would say, as a Christian, just be true to being a Christian.
Yeah, right on.
Just
God anticipated all of that.
That's why do not apologize for the fact that we can look a woman in the eyes and we can still talk to them without seeing them as sexual objects.
Wow, that's right.
So
That's
just be a
right.
Christian. And
That
then
is so-
preach the gospel by doing that.
You know, you brought this up. I thought about it. Now the second time I'm going to say it. Maybe it's the Holy Spirit prompting. But I was at a car wash not too long ago, and I noticed that sitting in front of me outside, waiting for our cars to get done, was, I'm going to guess that this Muslim girl was probably about 25, 27-ish. She had her hijab on, and I leaned over and I asked her. I said, "Can you can you explain why you're wearing this? I would like to know." And she said, "I'm wearing this as a display of modesty." And I said, "Well, that's very kind. That's excellent. What do you hope to achieve by that?" And she said, "Well, it prevents others from thinking she used a different word than lustful thoughts, but it meant that. And I said, well, can I say something to you? I'm a Christian, and I'm old enough to be your dad. So can I say something to you? You wear this so that a Muslim man doesn't look at you and think a thought? And she goes, well, yes, but not only a Muslim man, but yes, but yes. And I said, well, as a man, I want to tell you as a father figure that you see that trash dumpster out there that's shrouded, it's built in concrete? If you were to be inside that concrete blocked area and there was a sign out front of it and it said woman inside, that's all a man has to know for him to start thinking thoughts. What you're doing is commendable, but don't you think that a man's heart is much more corrupt than you, with your act of modesty, trying to be noble as you are? It's not going to work. She was silent, and I said, let me put it to you this way. In Islam, who's the strongest, the man or the woman? The man. Who's the most spiritual? The man. And I said, if that's true then, why doesn't the man govern his thoughts,
there you go,
govern his eyes, and look away from you, so that so that you wouldn't have to dress like this and you could be more free? And she said, are you saying that a man should not think thoughts or look away? And I said, yes. And she said, that man has yet to be born.
Oh, you were looking at him.
And I said, I have to tell you something. This is exactly the power of Christianity.
Yeah.
And she would not talk to me any further from that moment on.
Brilliant. I love that. I love that example.
I just thought, if the power of God is so powerful, then let that power be released. And it should exhibit in self-control.
That's right. That's a brilliant way to answer it.
So, one final thing. We've got 2 minutes left. Is there evidence that the decapitations that take place during the tribulation period, interesting, they're referring to Revelation 13, could that be a result of Islam in the world? Interesting thought. Revelation 13, those who do not believe in the doctrines and the power of the Antichrist, they are beheaded for not bowing to him. Interesting. Is beheading in the world...
yeah, I'll let you answer that one, since that's up your alley. I would say that's certainly scriptural, in that it's in Surah 47, Ayah 4. Very clear that the unbelievers are to be beheaded. Now, the unbelievers in that case would be us.
Yeah, interesting. Wow.
So there's scriptural backing for that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to say...
I'm sorry, Quranic backing
Quranic background for that. Backing for that. I'm not going to say... This is my personal view on this. Yes, Revelation 13 says the mode of death will be beheading. Interesting that they asked this question. I do not believe, though, that the Antichrist will be a Muslim as we know Muslims today, because the Islamic doctrine would stand in direct opposition to the doctrines of the Antichrist.
There you go.
Islam is not going to allow someone else to take over the world. This man, the Antichrist, wants to rule the world. And according to Revelation 17 and 18, he brings all religions together. I don't see that coming together.
No, I wouldn't worry about that, and I don't think we need to answer that one. But we can say that there is scriptural reference and certainly backing for it. Let's just leave it at that.
Jay, we've got about 40 seconds left. Can you just tell me, and those that are listening right now will get it, how can we help you do what you're doing? I've seen you. The world has seen you on YouTube. There are various awesome teachings that are available that you've done. What can you tell us for those that are watching? And then when you tell us that, will you end this by telling any Muslim that might be out there today why they should accept Christ?
I'd love to end that way. No, I think the best thing you can do is just be true to yourself. Make sure that you know your Bible. Make sure you know who Jesus Christ is, and preach him without any fear. Please do not apologize for who you are and who Christ is in you. Make sure Christ gets out into every conversation. Do not think about their sensibilities.
Yes.
Think about Christ's sensibilities.
Yes.
And the fact if they don't hear from you. Remember, Muslims are as passionate as, in fact, they're more passionate than we are. And so. they will try to convert you before you try to do the same with them. So in that sense, if you want to really make an impact on them, you better be as passionate as they are.
So I'm a Muslim right now. I'm lost. I don't know that. The plane's going down. I only have a few seconds. What are you going to tell me?
Come on home. The best way to understand God is come on back to the Bible, because the God here is a God that knows you, that can come your direction, that is big enough to come and walk and talk with us. Your God is incapable of that. you've got the wrong God. Come on back to the real one.
He walked among us.
There you go.
Our God is able to
He's
come
able
and
to
walk
do that.
among us.
Can Allah do that?
That's awesome.
Absolutely not.
That's awesome. Listen, this has been a great program, and you could do us a great favor by getting it out to as many people as you possibly know. You've got the link, you're here, you're watching. Let this go, let this fly. You just heard in the matter of minutes, more, I'm sure, more than you've ever known about Islam, from an expert in Islam, in my opinion, because I favor this guy, the world's best regarding the topic. As always, it's our joy to remind you that it is through Jesus Christ that we hope that you will have real life. God bless you until next time. It's awesome. Thank you.
Every church has believers, and believers make up what a church is like. What kind of church are you? In this series, Pastor Jack Hibbs teaches from the book of Revelation and expounds upon the timeless message of Jesus Christ himself in the letters to the 7 churches of ancient Turkey. How did those letters apply to those churches then? And how do these same letters apply to us today? Pastor Jack will challenge you to consider what kind of church you are in the light of these soul-searching letters. For your gift of any amount, we want to send you this 7-part CD set today. Go online to reallifewithjackhibbs.org or call 877-777-2346. Jack Hibbs truly believes we are living in some of the most exciting days in history, which brings some great opportunities to share with the world a powerful, no-nonsense presentation of the gospel to this generation who is searching for answers and truth. Will you stand with us in sharing this message in real and practical ways? We ask that you commit to support Real Life each month with a gift of your choosing. In return, our gift to you for becoming a Real Life partner, we'd like to send you this Worldview DVD. It's titled, What You Believe Defines You. Call now, 1-877-777-2346. That's 877-777-2346. Or by mail, P.O. Box 1273, Chino Hills, California, 91709, or simply go to reallifewithjackhibbs.org. Your gift will be faithfully put to work because it's our desire that through Jesus Christ you will know real life.